This week, nothing went the way that it was supposed to the whole time. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Episode 4 of Praise Wheel, the series where Matt and I are upgrading Vanquish H10 optics by the direction of a wheel. We spin a wheel every week. It gives us a task, and we have to do that task. This week went oh so poorly for me. We're going to get into everything about that. I'm going to show you... I can't explain this. So... What I'm going to do this week is I'm going to show you the spin of the wheel. I'm going to show you what followed that. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to show you 2 tools. One that you absolutely must have, and the other one that you're probably going to want, but there's very few of you that probably actually need it. So let's get into this week. It's time. It's time.
Well, we might as well. We've got a good, healthy audience.
So you went first in Vegas. So
that is true. So now you have to go.
I have to go first now.
Oh boy.
If one of us gets trade trucks, we don't spin again, right?
Yeah, what's the point?
What's the point? So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I hate this wheel. There we go. Not even close.
It's so fitting, though, that you got the only other wife thing.
Oh,
God.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to ask, just for clarity's sake, you have to ask her what to do next.
Yeah. Like...
What do you think I should do on this?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What do I want? Anything other than swap trucks. I will do mitts. I will happily do mitts.
Oh my God. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
I wish that it was still kind of spinning, because right now it's on uninstall whatever. All right.
Go. No. Oh, give me mitts. Give me mitts.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Called it. Yeah.
I was so mad if it was going to get uninstall whatever you did last week, which it was right there. Because I was like, there's nothing he would rather do than not finish that sound system. So from this week's spin, I got Ask the Wife. So that's a fairly easy task. The wheel said also that it has to be recorded. No big deal. I just asked Nicole to come in here and I recorded a little conversation.
Can I just sit on your lap or what?
You can sit on my lap if you want. So I have this truck.
Oh, we're doing this now?
It's on right now.
Oh, okay.
You know, the wheel?
The wheel.
The wheel that we're spinning to determine what we have to do.
Oh, yeah.
This week I got that I have to ask you and then do whatever you say. I have to do this today. So make it reasonable. But
Remember when I said I wanted a QR code?
uh-huh.
Can you do that for me?
I can do that.
Okay. So, am I on this right now?
It is recording right now.
My choice, what I want on Josh's wheel, is a QR code that links actually to this walk, the type 1 diabetes breakthrough walk for my nephew Emmett and my niece Lily, who both are type wonderful diabetics. And this is for the Junior Diabetes Research Fund that is trying to find a cure for type 1 diabetes.
I can handle that.
So I get like a JDRF on the side, or you know, whatever on the side, and like a QR code, so that you guys can donate to our team.
There you go.
Emmett's crew.
Hey, there you go.
And then I want a cat in the passenger seat.
How am I going to get a cat done in a day?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want me to fix your problems for you too, or did I just need to tell you?
I'll see about... All right, I'm on it. That's all I needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like this challenge.
Uh-huh.
Give me every week.
Goodbye. So Nicole's request initially seemed fairly reasonable. A QR code leading to a charity that we both have something, is close to us. Type 1 diabetes is something that affects my little nephew, Emmett. So therefore, it is something that is very close to us. So linking to a fundraiser to try and raise money and awareness for it, obviously something I'm all in for. Nicole typically goes back to Kansas City to participate in that walk-run event. However, this year she can't make it, so we're still going to try and raise some money for her team. Now, my first thought was, since I'm such an accomplished painter now, I would paint it. I've obviously painted a handful of things on this already, and I figured exporting a QR code, not that big of a deal. I used a website that I've used for links in the past to generate that, exported me a SVG file that I could then import and cut with my silhouette, Cricut basically. QR codes are detailed, lots of very tiny little squares, and my thought was to put it on the side of this truck. Well, the silhouette itself did a fine job for the most part, but as those squares got tinier and tinier, it had a tendency to drag a couple of the very small little dots out of place. Now, whether those dots were supposed to be removed or not, that then became a different problem. How do you weed this? They all kind of intertwine and connect, and so I'm either got to have the foot... It was a failure. So we had to abandon that one. And Nicole's like, well, don't you have a laser? It's like, well, yes, I do. That's a great thought. I initially thought I had way less time to get this done because I had forgot that Matt was going to be out of town, or he was planning to be out of town. And we ended up delaying the video, but this was before this stage. So I was in a bit of a rush. And I have access to a couple of lasers, but one I have here. So I tried it, loaded it up. I was in a rush though.
So now what are we doing?
Now I'm going to load the Emmett file. Sure, let's just try it, right?
Yep.
How bad can it be?
Fiery bad? Whoa.
Slow it down a little bit. Keep everything as... Just gonna do it. It's the worst that could happen.
It's gonna fuck up your whole panel. Do you have more?
No,
I don't feel like this is a good idea.
it might not be.
I think you should try it and like have it set and then do it on the...
I don't have anything else to test on. Like, it's an aluminum panel that's painted. Like, I just got...
Can't wait to... Let's just do a decal.
I don't have time for a decal. I gotta do this tonight.
Right, like, but it's gonna ruin your door, I feel like. I just wish we could get it laid out on one first. I mean, I think like, I'm not taking the blame for this getting up.
We're just doing it. Ready?
Sure.
How do I reset the...
Oh my god, Josh.
I'm just gonna hit start. If it starts real quick, I'm gonna hit stop, but. Okay, good. It asked me to start. Start again from the beginning. Yes. Okay. All right, here it goes.
Is that the right spot?
I think so.
Don't.
What's the worst that can happen?
I don't. You tell me. I have no idea.
I mean, if it bursts into flames entirely, I can fix it in the long run.
I thought you were out of time.
I am. I mean, it's just going to be a melted pile for this week. See, the fill looks way better, though. I changed it to vertical just to maybe get rid of some of the shape.
But is it bad?
I don't know. The laser was a good idea. It was the best chance that I had.
What are you saying? Is it not right?
I don't know. Oh, shit.
Shit.
What happened?
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
I think this is going horribly wrong.
How did it move the whole thing?
I don't know. Something is off. I told you to have it.
I wouldn't have been able to test that.
Well, shit, you wouldn't be able to test it. It did it on that too.
Well, I moved that one. Yeah, this isn't gonna work.
I think you should hit stop.
I mean, we might as well see where it goes from here at this point. Yeah, it's kind of abstract-y.
No. Not really.
Well, it does not see a QR code.
Shocker.
Okay.
Not gonna say I told you so.
And as you could see there, we had another fit. I don't know what happened. It just skipped and was like, it didn't, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. The computer did go to sleep at one point. Maybe that had something to do. I really do not know. But this panel is now wrecked. And I was using the font style that says Trans Am to say Type 1 because that, kind of still goes with the theme, could be a thing. Anyway, this QR code, not readable. No matter what Veritasium has taught me about QR codes, this one does not have enough error checking to make itself work. It was also toast. So we're up a creek, no paddle, whatever you want to call it. And so I had to figure out yet another plan. And my plan was to have a custom wrap made, a partial wrap that would kind of cover basically this area and effectively doing the same thing that we had here, giving me the Type 1 across the bottom of the door with a QR code and maybe a little bit of other, bits of design and detail to try and make this not such an epic failure for the week. But even that plan had faults. My ability to get that printed and to me in time was just not an option. So all I can do for this week is admit defeat, but do my good deed with putting the information up on the screen here. So if you're interested in supporting Nicole's Run Walk team for the awareness and fundraising type 1 diabetes, then all of that information is there. But one task that we can get completed for this week is we can upgrade some parts still, further the build along, improve the truck still, and go over a couple of tools that, again, one of them I think that you absolutely must have in your toolbox. And the other one, it's fun to have in your toolbox. Maybe not as necessary, but again, to some of you, maybe it is. So I decided for this week that I was going to go ahead and just change out the servo as well, just to, again, move the build forward. My local hobby shop had one of the Reef's 400 LPs. I wanted a low profile servo for this, and the 400 LP is the one that they had on hand. And 400 ounce inches, while I oftentimes run much more power than that, I don't want to give Matt, a 900 ounce inch servo if he's going to steal my truck. So 400 ounce inches, more than enough for most people. Some of us just get greedy with the power. Now, putting a new servo in is no big deal. You've all seen it a million times. You've all done it probably at least once before. But this is where some of those tools come into play that are super helpful to have for a number of different instances, and I'm going to show you what those are. The tool that I think you all should absolutely have in your toolbox is a servo tester or servo signal generator. You can get them in a number of different styles. There's the most inexpensive style, which is something like this little guy. Just a little box where you plug the servo in one side and you plug power in on the other. Now, this is made to run off of like a receiver pack style. So it's got a servo type plug on one end. This is oftentimes the type of battery that powers your radios if you've got a rechargeable radio battery. Then on the other side, you plug in your servos. And this is just a super easy little setup. Again, you plug the servo in one end, power in the other, and then it's got a knob where you can actually physically turn the servo if you like, or you can hit the buttons and it'll go to a center point. So you can just know 100% that that's the center position of your servo. I really don't use this that much anymore. Instead, the one I use is this one from Spectrum. Now, the only downside to this one from Spectrum is that it uses EC or IC style plugs on the end, which I find to be a bit of a pain. So I've got this little EC to XT60 adapter that basically lives in this at all times. And you plug your battery right into the end of it, you'll get a little display. Now this is also a LiPo checker, so it's kind of a multi-function. This battery is 63% full. Now what a servo tester is good for is if you've ever replaced a servo in one of your cars before, you always have to figure out where the center point is so that your steering horn is pointing in the right position at neutral. And typically to do that in a car, you need to get it all plugged into the receiver, powered up, and then get it set so you can put the horn on. But that oftentimes means that everything has to be in the car and has to be set, and it's just not all that convenient to work on them in that type of situation in there. Sometimes servo horns are even extremely tough to get to, especially have like clamping style servo horns on it. It may be inaccessible to get to some of those screws. And that's where a tool like this little checker becomes super handy. So I'm going to take and put the servo horn on in some random orientation, just 45 degrees off to one side. And then we're going to plug it into the servo checker. So once you get it plugged in, you can hit the little center button and it'll pull you up into a little menu display. Now, this is more than just a servo tester, so it's got a number of functions listed here, but the most important one that you would be interested in if you bought this exact same model is the servo test function. Now, there's two servo test functions on this specific one that says 1520 US and one that says 760 US. Now, it doesn't mean US, it means microseconds. And what that means, or what it's actually referring to, is the PWM signal that this is generating. Now, all of our RC vehicles, ground-based basically, run a PWM type signal. PWM stands for pulse width modulation. So a regular servo, 10 scale type servo, has 3 wires to it: a power, a ground, and a signal. The signal is what carries that PWM signal. And it is going to be ranging from about 1,000 to about 2,000. So somewhere in that range, and that tells the servo, in this case, where it should be trying to be pointed. If it's 1,000, it's full left. If it's 2,000, it's full right. And what 1,000 or 2,000 means is just the duration that the signal is being sent to in blocks. So if it's 2,000, it goes up and it stays on for 2,000 microseconds, then goes back down. There's an off time, then up again, on for 2,000 microseconds, then back down to off. It's a stepped signal. If it's 1,000, again, it goes up, on for 1,000 microseconds, then down. If you look at it on an oscilloscope, it's got a square look to it. Really, I told you all that just to tell you that the 1520 is the one that you will likely be using for just about any modern style servo. 1520 is about the actual midpoint of that 1,000 to 2,000, because it's not actually 1,000. It's like 1,020 to 2,000, details. So if you select servo test 1520, On here now, there's a little graph and it shows an arrow in the center. Now, if I hit the button, it goes to one side, hit it again, back to the center, again, the other side. And now you can see the throw of this servo. So I can set it right there. I know that that is the center section. And at this point, then I could center my servo actually how I want. And now I can put the screw on that retains that servo horn onto here. And now I know that I can drop this right into the vehicle and I'm not gonna have to go back, take the horn off, recenter it with my radio, put it back on and hope that it's good. This servo checker here, again, this one is branded as a Spectrum. This is the XBC 100 Smart Checker. However, I believe that this is a rebrand or, an OEM version of, I think, made by ISDT. So you're likely going to find these from various brands with a very similar style getup, which any of them should do. It doesn't really matter which one you buy. Now I only showed one function that this thing can do. You can also just, press and hold the thing and you can cycle it into an exact position. You can see exactly the PWM signal that it's outputting. If any of those pieces of data are important to you, it's all in here. It all presents itself. It's a good learning opportunity if you're trying to nerd out on something every once in a while. I, absolutely fully support that. In the end, though, you need a servo checker. You should have one of these, absolutely. The Turnigy one, $12, $13, still works great. I would recommend going with one more like this. Take advantage of the LiPo checker built in as well. That's a nice bonus, but the features that this thing has, absolutely worth the extra money that you're going to spend over the basic one. Unless you want a tool that does way more and is maybe worth it to 5% of you. This here is the Toolkit RC ST8. And this is like a servo checker like that, but way crazier. First of all, it's got the XT60 built in, which is nice. But you'll also see it's got one over here as well. And that's because it'll actually pass that through. Like you can plug this into your car. You plug your battery in on this side, you plug your car in from the other side, and then you're able to power both sides up while you're going. And that's useful for other reasons as well, because not only can you just take your servo like we did before and plug it into this thing. So with the servo plugged into one of the outputs, on the side it's labeled S1, S2, S3, S4, and then there's 4 other S4s that are all tied together with one control. But with that and with it set to be controlled by this knob here, which is called P1, you can see that I'm able to control that servo with that function there. Now, this can be helpful as you can, plug things in, cycle steering if you like, cycle a dig or whatever other function you may have that you want to test, but you can do that without having to, have your radio plugged in and check. Now, you can also see that it's got a display there. Now, currently, that is showing the load that the servo is requiring. So if at any point you wanted to get this put into a vehicle and cycle it, see if you have any sort of resistance or something that is abnormal through a throw, it can check that for you. Now you can also, as you're going, you can cycle things, and then if you want you can stop it, and then you can go back and you can cycle through that graph to get the data out of it that maybe you're after. It also has a cycle counter. If for some reason you wanted to cycle the function of a vehicle or a test rig, or even you were trying to test a servo and you wanted to do, say, 1,000 cycles, you could do that. You would go down to the input or output that you're looking to control, which in this case is S4, press down on it and just say that you don't want it to be controlled by P1, which is this little knob over there, but you can select internal, and you can do linear, which linear just means that it goes left to right in these sweeping motions, like you can see there. Now there's all kinds of speed settings and things like that, but currently I'm on the 8th cycle of this. If I wanted to, I could say you go to stage mode, which is just full left, full right, as fast as it can go. We've done 18 cycles total now. Now, obviously we've ramped up that load. We've done 60 cycles so far. It also gives me a readout of the power that it's consuming. 2,627 milliamps worth of power to control that. So if you ran that for an hour, that would take 2,560 milliamps worth of battery power. Additionally, if you were having a problem with your radio of some sort, you didn't 100% understand if things were functioning properly, if you had a bad servo, if you had a bad output, something like that just wasn't adding up, you can use this as an intermediary to kind of figure that out. So if you have a lead like this, which has the female side of the servo plugs on each side, then you can use that here. So you would plug one side in on this, and you would plug this end into your receiver. Or in this case, since I'm not going to dig the receiver out, I'm going to use my other servo checker as my quote unquote receiver. So now I've got my servo checker acting as my quote unquote receiver that would be inside of my vehicle, and it would be plugged into this, and then the receiver or the servo plugged into the other side. This is just kind of acting like something in the middle to read what's happening, if that makes some sense to you. Just a good troubleshooting tool. So I'm going to simulate, steering left and right from my radio to see if everything was working. So I can see all of the functions happening on the graph of this to confirm that I'm getting the right signal. I also have a little bar graph on the side there that reads the same as the output from the other unit. I can go in and actually select the output that I'm looking at as well, and I can see, like, if I want to just increment up that, I can see that right now I'm at 1,848 steps, 1,807, 18. So you can just get all of the information that your vehicle is working with onto something that you can see. You can prove if this piece isn't working or if this piece isn't working. Where is the fault? Is the servo drawing a bunch of power but not reacting to the input of a radio? Well, check that the input from the radio is making it to the servo. Or maybe you have a bad servo. Now, is the toolkit RC1 the one that you need? No. And there's even a bit of a learning curve to figuring out how this thing works in general. Like, you got to kind of fiddle with some menus, or I guess read a manual. That could be a thing. I don't even know if it came with a manual. I just had to figure it out. But I really enjoy having a tool that is this easy and compact that I can use to test stuff, figure out where a problem may be, or just know how my stuff works a little bit more. I find that to be so interesting, just knowing how these things work. But what you absolutely do need is a servo checker, a basic one of some sort. You should have one of these in your toolbox. Save yourself some headache. It will make wrenching on things a little bit more enjoyable. When you just know that you can do it when it's out here in the open, super easy, then you can just throw it in the car and you know that it's going to be right. I highly recommend diving in and just expanding your toolbox a little bit more, or a lot more if you want to get a degree in electrical engineering. I'm going to get this installed in this vehicle. I mentioned before how I wanted to have a low profile servo, and that's just because the servo on the back of the H10 sits up above a little bit, and having low profile to me just keeps the weight a little bit lower. Is it super necessary? No. It's a small thing, but sometimes the small things make me happy. I'm going to get this installed. You guys don't need to see me pull out 5 screws and then replace 5 screws. I hope that you trust that I can figure that out, and that I've probably bored you enough with the definition of PWM and microseconds, oscilloscopes, science. I'm trying to make myself feel better about failing this week. If you want to help me not fail quite as much, you can find the link in the description below for Nicole's run walk for type 1 diabetes. If you have any more questions about servo checkers or this toolkit RC1, absolutely drop a comment below. Ridicule me about my failure for this week. I can take it. Sometimes it happens. We're all human. And if you want to see more of the human side of me, you can also check out channel membership. See that segue? Boom. Anyway, channel membership helps support the channel a little bit extra. You just see behind the scenes of sometimes me struggling, sometimes me working on the latest projects. The Rockabilly buggy behind me is one of my current ones. And yeah, more failures, I'm sure, ahead. You see a little more of them unedited on that side of things. So anyway, praise wheel. It had to be praise wheel that made me screw up, but whatever, is what it is. We got another spin coming up this week. We'll be spinning tonight on Livestream Takeover. If you're watching this video as soon as the day it comes out, I don't have high hopes of what is ahead for me. So we'll see, but tune in tonight and find out. If you enjoy the show, hit the like button. Again, drop a comment, all the good stuff. Subscribe. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.